Mexico is a country located in North America and is known for its rich culture. The country consists of two landmasses, mainland Mexico and Baja California. They are known for their beautiful crystal clear beaches, the amazing cuisine, its music, holidays, and amazing sporting teams and events. The country strives off its tourism, hosting many professional events that bring other currencies and cultures into the country constantly, making this aspect of being one of the highest desired tourist locations and one of the top money makers for the government and country as a whole. Mexico is a country that is considered to have high context culture. In Mexico, people are closely knit, loyal, and proud. They are extremely hard workers, many of them start at an early age. While Mexico is a beautiful and lively country, there are still some areas to be aware of, such as the underground economy. When it comes to going to a different country, there are definitely some worries that come to mind. As an expatriate, it is important to know the differences between the countries in order to be prepared. Having some knowledge and background about the country you are planning on working in will help your success. Some of the main and most important differences that an expatriate will encounter and should be prepared with when going to Mexico are cultural differences, political differences, economic differences, and societal differences. Cultural differences between Mexico and the United States are apparent. American culture is more diverse because it is a combination of various cultures amongst the world due to immigration. When going to Mexico, an expatriate should expect the culture to have a tendency towards indulgence. The culture expresses a positive attitude and lots of confidence. Leisure time is also an important aspect in Mexican culture. Being able to spend money and act freely is greatly seen. As an expatriate, it is important to be social and interactive amongst the people. The culture is very friendly and welcoming, so being social and more extroverted will lead to more connections and friendships, and overall help you succeed in and out of the workforce. Being able to incorporate and be willing to learn about the culture is also important for an expatriate to do. Making the connection with the culture and being able to try new things will show respect towards the people and allow for a greater chance of success and being looked up to. Some things that an expatriate can do to indulge in the Mexican culture are trying new foods, learning the language, and learning the history of the country in order to show their respect towards the people of Mexico.
Mexico consists of a population of 130.2 million. Mexico's income level is considered to be upper middle income. Mexico's GINI index is 45.4%, slightly higher than the United States' 41.5%. A lower score means there is more equal distribution. Another thing to be aware of is Mexico's age distribution. Mexico's population is younger than the United States population. In Mexico, 66.68% of the population represents the age range of 15 to 64. It is likely that you will encounter a lot of young and new hires. Whether you'll be training or selling to the people within this age range, it is important to understand the difference in how you treat younger people compared to older people. In addition, if you have children, it is helpful to note that 25.49% of Mexico's population is made up of people aged 14 and younger. This age range is larger in Mexico than it is in the United States. Your children, if you have any, will certainly be surrounded by others with the same age. Whether the children fit in is another story. While Mexico is shifting to a more urban population, there are still a good amount of people within the rural lifestyle. The rural population in Mexico accounts for 19% of the total population. This percentage is just 2% more than that of the United States. Considering this statistic, you might have to train people who are lower skilled in regard to industry and service sectors.
Our history with Mexico has been up and down, stretching back to the year of 1810. We are in close proximity within a handful of our states, and the Pacific coastline shares very similar geographic features to theirs. The country of Mexico has dealt with monumental amounts of economic, social, and historic turmoil over the course of its history. A huge reason for slow income growth in Mexico is due to low productivity. There are big fertile firms in Mexico that are well consolidated in the global economy, but most firms are compact and lack capital proficiency to raise labor productivity. Mexico has been one of our biggest allies in terms of being a neighboring country and keeping an intimate connection through our USMCA trade agreement signed on November 30th, 2018. It replaced the NAFTA agreement, where the biggest differences between the two were the sunset provision, causing the agreement to expire in the year 2036, and also requires a review of the trade deal every 6 years to amend or reauthorize the trade agreement to ensure no issues are overlooked. One of our biggest key factors that have played into the historical economic success of Mexico is the development of tourism throughout the country. Over the past couple decades, the tourism rates of people visiting Mexico has skyrocketed, averaging around 97 million people a year, with a return of 25.5 billion pesos in the year 2019, making it one of the most principal industries keeping the economy flowing. The workforce for Mexico is among one of the highest in the world, with over 57 million people employed every day, making the country historically one of the hardest working in the world, recorded by the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where they stated the people of Mexico work much harder than any other of their fellow members, clocking in an average of 2,200 hours per year at work. Although Mexico has labor laws that limit the work week to 48 hours per week, it is rarely enforced because of high unemployment and low pay wages. Mexico is one of only 2 countries in the OECD scale, along with Turkey, that is considered a middle-income country. Currency exchange in Mexico is a huge benefit to our US dollar, in which it is trading for $1 US for around 20 pesos at its current rate. The simplicity of entering and the proximity to Mexico makes it convenient for the United States tourists to enjoy the old world atmosphere and customs of another country at a reasonable expense. Formalities for entering and departing from Mexico are simple over the 4 main points of entry from the United States: El Chaparral, Yacerillo, Arroyo Mesa, and Tecate. Throughout the course's history, Mexico's boundaries have shifted all the way while mostly staying stable. Colonial Mexico is basically stretched from Guatemala across what is now California to the southern west United States and vaguely into the Pacific Northwest. The history of this country dates back further than the US and shows throughout all the ups and downs of their timeline, the option of coming south of the border will be well worth it for the business opportunities that it presents, giving this branch a new opportunity for success.
Society in Mexico is very distinct from American society. The country does not have an official religion, but it is estimated that about 80% of the country identifies as Catholic. Many Mexicans see their religion as something that was passed on through family and as their cultural heritage. Another thing to keep in mind is that even non-religious Mexicans still sometimes engage in some Catholic celebration, and it is customary that Sundays mostly everything's closed. There is also a high level of machismo among men. Unlike the United States, men and women have distinct roles that they are expected to follow. Women are just now being more accepted in workplaces and slowly seen as equal to men when it comes to work. Many Mexicans have ideals like that a woman should be at home, cooking, and always attentive to her husband. The husband is always the one that is meant to provide for the family and is in charge of the house, and whatever he says goes. The cost of living in Mexico is much lower than in America. This is true for things like rent, groceries, public transportations, and other things, but when it comes to buying branded shirts, shoes, and clothes in general, it is not. Corruption is also viewed as a normal thing. It is known to expand from high-level government to local bureaucrat. Unlike in America, if people found out that there's corruption, they would break out. But in Mexico, if you want something done, you will most likely have to get it done by dirtying your hands yourself. It is just how things work in this country. Another huge thing to notice is there is a slower pace in life. People will take days off and not just think about work even on their days off like in the US. A huge role why this is of course religion, but also family. Family is huge in Mexico and can affect decisions on who companies do business with. Dress code is important. Mexicans are very conscious when it comes to status, and successful people are expected to dress the part. Lastly, although English is commonly spoken in Mexico, it should not be assumed that all business acquaintances will be fluent in the language. You will be at an advantage doing business in Mexico if you speak Spanish.
Has a long history of social, political, and economic turmoil that has led to its current legal system of today. Mexico has and will still deal with a cartel influence on political natures, and which scrutinizes certain citizens into a cartel lifestyle. Violence and organized activities have reigned in this country for decades, with zero end in sight. Through all this difficulty, this big, beautiful country is divided into 31 states and a federal district. Each state has its own elected governor and its own Congress. And just like the United States, every state will also have smaller districts in which elected mayors will be placed. As a limited government, government officials and citizens alike have worked over generations to ensure a free and fair civil rights for all citizens. Mexico's legal system comes from civil law tradition, just as many other legal systems do. But unlike the United States, in which uses a common law tradition, we American citizens favor a common law approach, as it allows judges of Supreme and smaller courts to respond to unfair future cases, even if those cases have not been predicted to occur. This consistency of delegation and independence from political figures such as presidents or mayors allows consistent and fair results in their respective justice systems. Since 2000, Mexico has been an electoral democracy with term limits that span different amounts of years. As an elected president of Mexico, you are elected to a 6-year term and cannot be reelected at a future time. As a Mexican citizen, you gain access to free and fair elections, which also allows citizens to institute a recall referendum halfway through the current president's term. Elections can and will always be a hostile time in any country. There can be turmoil and resistance to certain changes within government policies and also power. Although there are free and fair elections, in 2018, the current election campaign led to violence within the Mexican states and led to at least 145 confirmed deaths. Power has always been in the hands of government officials, and even in a secure state as Mexico, violence will occur. At the state and federal levels, accusations have blown through Mexico of vote buying of citizens and the misuse of public campaign funds. This tarnishes the great state of Mexico as it slowly tries to create a safe place for citizens and tourists alike. With fear of cartel influence on the state and financial inconsistencies, Mexican citizens know to stick to their roots and trust their own people and neighbors as family.
Thank you